just to the convention, but to this panel. So this is really nice. I don't remember what they called this panel, but it's Doctor Who fans. We're going to make an assumption here that if you are here, you'll like Doctor Who. If you don't like Doctor Who, maybe by the end of this panel we can convince you otherwise. Or not. Matt doesn't like anything, so we'll just have to see. But this is specifically Doctor Who in comics, so we're probably going
There's no way it's going to stay just in the comics.
And so just as a heads up, we're probably going to talk about the Doctor Who in general, the TV show, and probably Series 9, so if you haven't caught up yet and we start to spoil things, I'm giving you spoilers in advance.
In the words of River
if we see you doing this, we're not going to feel bad.
I think that's a good idea.
So without further ado, I'm going to let our two illustrious guests introduce themselves, please tell us who you are and why you would be at a Doctor Who comic.
I don't know. We've met before, haven't we?
I think we have.
Yeah.
I'm Kelly Yates. I've been working on Doctor Who comic books since about 2006, when IDW first acquired the rights to the Doctor Who license. I'm a longtime fan since the late 70s, early 80s, when Tom Baker came on board. And so the fourth Doctor always was my Doctor. I love the new guys. I think they're great, but four always been mine. So it's kind of just general.
So you're just getting that question out of the way, right? Who's your favorite
who's
Doctor?
your favorite? Yeah, you know.
We always get asked this question.
No, it's who's your first? Who's your favorite? Right? You know?
Okay.
You are two different
You
questions.
fall in line with each other, but not always.
Not for me, because I like bucking the trend. I'm Matt Smith, not the cool Matt Smith. I'm the other Matt Smith. I am a Doctor Who fan who grew up to be a comic book creator. So I've been watching Doctor Who since I was 7 in 1978. Do the math, figure out how old I am. I drew the Doctor Who comic book at IDW off and on for 3 or 4 years. I wrote a few stories as well when they were stupid enough to let me write one. Now I draw the X-Files comic for IDW and write and draw my own creator-owned series called The October Girl, among a bazillion other things.
Yeah. So you're busy. You keep busy.
I have a job. It's nice.
Yeah. That's cool.
My wife's real happy with that. She thinks that's really great.
All right, so when did you first start watching that? Because you said you're 7 years old.
Well, I kind of mirror that. I overheard you when you were talking to me a little bit earlier. And I discovered on PBS, just happened to flip by, and there was like this robot chasing this guy in a scarf. It's like, what the heck is this, you know? And it was kind of cool. But just kind of how you're saying that it wasn't cool to talk about it back then.
No one knew what I was talking about.
My friends were not watching Doctor Who. If they did, we didn't talk about it. It wasn't like now you go on the internet and discuss it after every episode airs or whatever. Before it was like, you know, we didn't even have the Doctor Who magazine. You know, yeah, it was hard to find.
It was hard to find.
But what a huge difference between then and now. So and. Honestly, the female fan base too has just been incredible over the years. Like there were a couple older, you know, women who watched Doctor Who, but now we have a younger fan base. It's really interesting to see how it's grown over the years. So,
in high school, you know how people have photos of like their favorite bands, or you know, if you're a guy, like some girl in a bikini or something in your locker. I had photos cut out of Doctor Who magazine of the various companions.
Uncool. In particular?
Zoe.
Yeah.
I named my cat after Zoe. Zoe, and actually I had one of, later I had one of Perry, which was weird because at the show, I met Drew at a Doctor Who convention in Baltimore. We were there with the actress who played Perry, and I went up to her and was like, I had a picture of you in my locker when I was in high school. And it didn't freak her out at all, or at least she hid it very, very well.
I had a brief conversation
and Romana too.
With her about that, and she's just like, no, I get that story a lot.
Does she really?
Oh, yeah.
That makes me feel slightly
a lot of
less
the companions are like, it's like, you know, within 5 minutes, you know when that conversation's going to head in that direction. Right?
But you can trace everything, and I'm sure Kelly probably can say the same thing. You can trace everything that I do in comics, and I've been drawing comics now for long enough that my career can legally buy alcohol. Do the math on that one. Everything that I'm interested in as a creator, and particularly as an artist, is because of Doctor Who. So I draw characters. I love drawing characters in coats. I I wonder where that comes from. If you ever look at any pictures of the October Girl, and to this day, no one's called me on this. She's wearing Romana 2's outfit from Destiny of the Daleks. No one's called me on this. But anyway, so that's...
We know now.
But it's... Yeah, you already knew that, but I'm sure I've told you that before. But, you know, it informed everything that I do.
Well, I actually want to talk to you guys because, you know, Doctor Who is a part of what you do, but as far as breaking into comics in general, as artists, you both start, I know you did some writing. Did you start off in the comics industry as an artist in particular, or did you start writing first and then go into art?
I went to school in Ohio, in the middle of Ohio, surrounded by nothing but cows. So I wanted to be a comic book writer, but there was really not many people at my school who read comics, and certainly no one who could really draw comics. So, and I could always kind of draw, so I started drawing my own scripts. It's a lot easier to break in comics when you go, I draw like this, than saying, I have this great idea for a Superman story. So I ended up getting work as an artist first.
Okay.
And it's been a 21-plus year battle to convince people to let me write stuff, too.
Well, can I ask you what the first comic that you actually did the artwork for?
Dominique White Knuckle Drive, one-shot special from Caliber in 1993.
Oh, I remember that character.
It was terrible. I was
All our
I had
first stories were
no
terrible.
idea what I was doing.
They were all terrible, though, weren't they?
Yeah,
The first ones? I mean,
like the first couple of years. Well, geez, even stuff I did like a couple of years ago was terrible. But there's a constant, like the moment where you start thinking that you're a genius and everything you do is great is the moment you need to quit or retire or whatever. We just always hate what we do. At least I do.
Well, I think as an artist, you always continually want to grow. That's why I surround myself with people who are much better than me,
Yeah.
so I can aspire to them and everything. But to answer your question, I didn't start drawing until I was 21 years old. I was always, I was into comic books since about 12.
Feel free to boo him.
I think the last time I had an art class, it was like play or whatever, it was like 9th grade in high school. So, but I always had this passion for comic books, so I didn't start drawing until I didn't realize that I could make a living as an artist, so I ended up getting like a 2-year degree in commercial art design, because I didn't even know how to turn on a computer when I was 21. We didn't have computers in my high school or anything. So I kind of just, stayed up late studying, just doing life drawing classes through the years. So it took me like 10 to 12 years to really kind of break into comic books and just start getting work and actually get a paycheck. I think my first paycheck was actually from DC Comics doing a Green Lantern Secret Files 8-page story and everything. So, yeah. But for Doctor Who specifically, it was 2006. I think the David Tennant era had just started, and IDW had acquired the license.
We did fill in on the
Forgotten Four was my first work. But a friend of mine, Robert Atkins, was drawing G.I. Joe for IDW Comics, and I was at San Diego Comic Con. I was like, Robert, I'm a huge Doctor Who fan from back then, but just please introduce me to the editor. And the editor's like, well, we're booked up for the next year. He goes, I like your stuff, but there's nothing I can give you. Nothing. I was like, I don't care. I will wait a year. I'm just a huge fan. And a month after San Diego, I get an email that says knock knock opportunity. And it was Forgotten issue 4. So.
And I was drawing a Supernatural comic book, the show Supernatural, at Wildstorm. This is a while ago now. And I was on the phone with my editor, Ben Abernathy, who's now the talent coordinator at DC Comics. Very useful. Networking. It's all about the networking.
Yeah.
And he was my assistant editor on my Hellboy work, which is how I know him. It's all about networking. Anyway, so I was on the phone with Ben, and Ben was like, well, what do you want to do next? And I'm like, you guys should really get the Doctor Who license. That's like, because I really want to do Doctor Who. He's like, oh, yeah, they just announced that IDW is going to do Doctor Who comics. I'm like, oh, really interesting. So I've got Ben on the phone, and I'm typing an email to the head of IDW going, dude, you guys have Doctor Who? I will draw it for free. And I got the same thing. It's like, oh, we're booked up for the next year or so, but, we'll keep it in mind. And I ended up just doing a cover, just for fun, because I draw Doctor Who for fun, and sent it to them. And they're like, oh, can we use this? I'm like, yeah. And they send it to everything you draw when you get hired on or when they approach you about maybe drawing it, they send your work to the BBC, and the BBC has to sign off on it. So they had sent it to the person at the BBC, who was actually Gary Russell at that point.
Gary, yeah.
And Gary's like, I really like this. It's too bad it's just a cover. So then I get another email saying, we need an artist for either a 2-page story, or two-issue story, a 4-issue story, or a 6-issue story. Which one would you like? Yeah, that didn't take a whole lot of thought.
I'll take all of them, thank you.
So I took the 6-issue story, and they just kept asking me back. But that's, I mean, I basically got in by pleading on an email. Well, I should have been sucking up to the guy at Wildstorm.
Yeah.
Because they pay a lot better. But it was Doctor Who, so.
Well, that's the thing, passion versus pay. You know, like, oh, you love the Doctor Who, so you'll take maybe a little bit less money, but it's something you really want to do. So, just like create your own book. I don't get paid anything for my create your own books, you know, Amber Adams or Monster, but if there's that passion to do it.
Yeah,
So.
and it's yours, you know?
Yeah.
So, you read Doctor Who magazine, you didn't have Doctor Who magazine, so means when you were reading that growing up, you had access to the first Doctor Who comics, the ones
Yeah.
that actually came in. Those. Did you read the early stuff? I know Marvel got the rights to it, I want to say
88, 89.
something like that, yeah.
That's when I first started picking up the Doctor
Actually, they got
Who.
it before
Yeah,
that.
the Marvel
They got it-
premiere.
The Marvel premiere.
Four-issue Marvel premiere.
It's when they did that 12-part. It was the Tom Baker, the Dave Gibbons artwork, the
Oh, yeah.
reprinting. Yeah.
There
So
were,
that was when I was
and I had read some of those originally, but they did, they reprinted the Iron Legion story, which is famous in Doctor Who comics because it's been reprinted so many times. I think I have 4 different copies of it. My friend Walt Simonson did the first cover.
Just take a moment to glory and be able to say that phrase. My friend Walt Simonson. Go ahead.
Whatever. He did that cover. And I, as a kid, that was one of the first comic books I ever bought. I thought that was the coolest drawing of Tom Baker ever. And I finally worked up the courage to ask Walt about it. I'm like, just so you know, like, I love that. Like, when I was a little kid, I thought that was the greatest thing. He's like, yeah, I never saw the show. They had sent him photos, and he just drew it. He had never seen Doctor Who. He still has never really watched Doctor Who. And they're amazing. It's like the perfect drawing of Tom Baker.
Wow.
I watched Doctor Who as a kid, like once or twice, but I didn't have television growing up. But my introduction to Doctor Who was through the comic books. So like Tom Baker was my doctor because Tom Baker was the doctor who did the comic. Can't remember her name now, but like the first Doctor Who companion I ever had was K9, and I can't remember her name. The first black companion.
I know you're talking about. And Meep.
And Meep is my first story. Has anyone read the Meep story? No? You should check out some of the old Doctor Who's.
It's basically a story where if a Tribble was an intergalactic war criminal.
Yeah. But it's got these giant, it's kind of like a Pokemon. It's like, oh, this is adorable. And the giant, horrible monsters that are chasing it, you're like, well, these are obviously, they're giant, horrible monsters. They must be the bad guys. And Meep's just like,
And when you're like 12 years old reading this, you're like, this is the greatest thing ever.
And when you're almost 40 years old and you're reading it, you're like, this is the greatest thing ever.
Wasn't that Alan Moore and Dave Gibbons?
Yes.
Alan Moore of
Yeah,
Watchmen.
it's kind of like,
fan?
yeah. And there's Grant Morrison did some stuff in there. His Cybermen board story is like, that was Return of Jamie McCrimmon. That was a really fun one too.
And we can be a part of all this now.
I know,
Part
which
of
is
the,
insane. It's so bizarre.
So let me ask you guys, because we all, as fans of the show, obviously with comics, you're not limited by the scope of special effects. Yeah.
So I do a lot of what we call these licensed comics. So you're doing comic books at the time into a TV show. So I've done Supernatural, Doctor Who, and now I do the X-Files. And you're on one of these panels at a show, and there's always the one writer who says, the great thing about comics is we have unlimited budgets. We can do whatever we want. That's great, but there's a point at which it stops feeling like the show. Mm-hmm. One of the things about Doctor Who is they don't have the budget for really, really fancy space battles. And one of the first comic books I did, there was like a giant 2-page spread of a space battle. And I tried to draw it the way it would look if it was in a Doctor Who episode, where it doesn't quite work.
You can see the string.
You can see the string. if we had motion comics, you'd see that it's wobbling a little bit.
Yeah.
But there is a point at which, you know, it doesn't feel like the show anymore. When I do Aliens, I design them around the idea of there's a guy in there, so that it has to kind of look like it could have been a costume that somebody wears. Because if you draw this like amazing Brian Froud-ish kind of alien creature, it's not going to look like something that would have been on the show. But everyone tells me I'm crazy and that I should just draw whatever. But that's kind of like how I feel about it. So I get a little, that always drives me a little nuts.
Well, I was going to kind of go, you're exactly right. I'm kind of curious, you get to draw alien planets that are not rock quarries, so at least, if nothing else, there's that, right?
No, I make them look like rock quarries. There's actually you did issue 12 of Prisoners of Time.
Yeah.
I did issue 11 of Prisoners of Time.
Well, you know, I got an email about that. I was at the comic book store reading my Doctor Who comic, and I get an email from Denson, our editor, that we both had at IDW. He goes, so, do you want to illustrate 11 or 12 of Prisoners of Time? I'm like, 12. Because
You got to draw Frobisher. I hate you. Sorry,
well,
it's my
partly,
favorite comic book
I looked at
character.
a little bit of redemption because issue 6 of The Forgotten, I had to draw in less than 2 weeks. And it had all the reference and everything, and the reference wasn't as readily available as it is now, where you could download gigs of reference and everything. It had so much, and it was less than 2 weeks, and just not very proud of that work. So I looked at that an opportunity to kind of, you know, come back and like, yes, I can draw all the doctors, I can draw all the companions, and
That's the two-page spread, right, with everybody?
No, that's me.
Oh, you did that one?
I did the 2-page spread that had all the companions.
well, I did.
Oh, yeah.
Did you do?
I did in issue 12. I did all the doctors.
Oh, right.
And then there's a panel with all the companions coming down out of the cylinders, Orlando and everything. But now, which one are you talking about? Issue 11?
So, all right, we're way down the nerd hole here. So, for the 50th anniversary, IDW did we called it a maxi series, which just means it was 12 issues, where each issue focused on a different doctor. So it was all the doctors, and then issue 12
and then each
that
issue
he
had a
drew.
different artist, though.
Right, and each had a different artist. So he drew issue 12. I drew the 11th Doctor because my name's Matt Smith, and I think that's hilarious. And apparently you turned it down. So, basically, it was the first. I switched over from drawing traditionally to I now draw on a computer. So it's like the only Doctor Who thing I drew that I was happy with, and it was the last thing I drew because that's just how it goes. But they had. I have a long-running joke with Paul Cornell, who's a writer from the new show and creator of Bernice Summerfield, if you're familiar with some of the ancillary media, that he wants to see me do Frobisher, because Frobisher is a companion character from the comics who's a penguin, or he looks like a penguin. And I read this character when I was a kid and thought it was the greatest thing ever. So I get this thing in issue 11 where I have to draw a double-page spread and as many companions as I can fit into it. And I'm like, I finally get to draw Frobisher. I can like rub it in Paul's face. It'll be hilarious. Until you start reading the rest of the description, except for Frobisher, because he's off doing something else. Yeah. And I'm like, I'm sorry. But so I ended up drawing. So I ended up getting to draw all the companions, and it literally was just as many as you can. And the thing I should never say in public, and yet I always find myself saying in public, that I drew all the companions from memory in costumes from specific episodes from memory, and I can tell you what story each costume is from.
The problem with that was I think that's where some of it didn't mess up because we were all working on
we're all working on it at the same time.
So I didn't get to see what he was illustrating. So there's the trigger. And my trigger in my book was completely different than how you drew the trigger.
But the trigger turns out to be Frobisher, right?
Yeah.
So it's okay. Look, he's a shape changer. So, anyways.
Yeah. No.
Hi, we're nerds.
As far as this is your comments, anything you want to add about the comics? I thought we could just move into the show itself.
Sure.
I mean, obviously you guys love Doctor Who. Why?
Well, I was born at a very early age. Sorry.
Weren't we all?
You know, it's weird. It's kind of a nature versus nurture thing. I grew up in a very Anglophilic family. So, you know, I grew up as a little kid. I'm not reading, you know, the Phantom Tollbooth. I'm reading all the Sherlock Holmes stories.
Right.
You know, so I was sort of primed for this sort of stuff. And, you know, you watch Doctor Who when you're 7, and you like it when you're 7, and you watch it for the rest of your life. It's gonna shape you. So, the things I like I said, in my work, but the things I like in life and in other forms of entertainment, like those were all formed by Doctor Who, and the themes of Doctor Who, and sort of the approach of Doctor Who. And, you know, particularly when I write, too, I write, most of the stories I come up with, kind of, if you adjusted them a little bit, could be Doctor Who stories. So,
I think for me it's like a kind of the product of the times. Initially, because Star Wars, I was 5 years old when Star Wars came out. I was like hugely influenced by that. You know, there's Star Destroyer coming in, just the whole thing. And that was a time when like Battlestar Galactica came out in '78. There really was not a lot of sci-fi on TV. So obviously that sci-fi thing really pulled me in. You know, I think PBS had acquired the rights to Doctor Who cheap, just because some people put in filler on Saturday afternoons or whenever after TV, local news, whatever your area happened to be. And I think it was like '78 as well that they started airing, you know, this British TV show that they could get for cheap. So I think it really kind of just a product of the time, and there wasn't a lot of sci-fi stuff on. I mean, Battlestar was only one, sporadically, like 2 years or something like that. Space 1999 really didn't do anything for me at that age, you know. Sometimes I probably go back and watch now.
Yeah, just don't watch the second season.
That's
First season's really good.
That's what I heard. But I think it's probably kind of the product of the time, and there just wasn't a lot. And now it's just, you know, Saturday afternoon, you know, just kind of acquired every time and just fall in love with it.
And then, you know, my friend Ron Mars, creator of Kyle Rayner of Green Lantern. Sorry, I just dig it.
Name drop.
So, you know, my friend Ron has kids, and they love Doctor Who, and they're, you know, they have all the DVDs and they have all the toys, and I kind of hate them because when we were kids, the only way we could watch old episodes. This is before VCRs were common.
Right.
My dad was in TV news, so we actually had a VCR, which was awesome because you just record the episodes of Doctor Who and watch them over and over again until the tape fell apart. The only way you could really watch old episodes were the Target novelizations, and I had a whole shelf of them. And, you know, there was a little toy store in suburban D.C. that carried them. They had a little spinner rack, and you would sit. I was only allowed to get one. So I'd sit there for like an hour reading the back of each one, going, maybe this one. And that's what I did every weekend. So that was the only way we could see them. If we missed an episode or whatever, it was the only way you could read or experience the story.
We had to have a Target novelization conversation with an anthology looking for writers for short essays about your own personal experience about school book. About that.
Sure.
I got a little bit here. Have fun with it. Well, I want to talk about the show. I want to talk about the show currently.
It's Jump the Shark.
Thank you.
The show can be canceled.
It's terrible.
Actually, let's go 2 seasons. We'll just talk about
Well,
how
anybody think about that real quick. You know, so I'm at New York Comic Con 2 weeks ago, and Sunday morning, when all these people come by the table talking, like, oh, did you watch the episode last night? Nobody had watched the episode. They're like, oh, I'll watch it this week. So I know when they talk about the drop in numbers and everything, I think everybody's consuming it, like, maybe not Saturday night at 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock, Monday when I have time.
I don't have cable,
worried.
so I watch it. I watch it on iTunes.
Me too.
And
I don't have cable. Yeah.
And you guys are also, on weekends, you're at con, and usually...
I'm not.
Well, you can.
He's way more popular than me.
So that was my little thing about the numbers dropping. I've
Yeah.
seen that a little bit lately, and I'm not too worried about that.
I'm not.
The show's not going anywhere.
No.
Because the millions of dollars they're making every season.
Yep.
Anyway,
Though technically, and I don't know if you guys know this, the show may have a hiccup next season. They actually may not do a full season.
They're always not doing full season.
Well,
they just disguise it better some years than others.
That's true. We may get what we got with Series 7, which is like six episodes. We might only get 6 episodes in 2006.
Well, they keep cutting the budget.
Yeah.
Is that what the problem is, or is that?
That's why they've done it.
It's a couple of things. There's the budget. There's the whole BBC losing the license argument that's going on. The Tories trying to remove it. Sherlock is getting
Not Sherlock.
I don't know if you guys are
Everyone blames
aware.
it on Sherlock. It's not
I'm not
Sherlock.
blaming it on
No,
Sherlock.
no, more episodes.
But
We're not friends anymore.
are you aware that there's going to be a Doctor Who spin-off series called Class that is going to be taking place entirely at the Colville School, and it's going to be a teen-oriented, so maybe not Sarah Jane
So another
Adventures,
torch
but maybe
word.
something else. They have released next to nothing other than it's called Class. It's going to be aimed. Absolutely.
I am a little bit surprised, but
Yeah.
every time, it's like the same thing. Every time they announce a new Doctor, I look at the photo of the guy, I'm like, oh, that's going to be terrible. And I end up loving them. So when they announce new stuff, I'll like it, whatever.
Yeah, I've stopped trying to go, I will vent on the internet. It's like the internet.
Dude, that's what the internet's for. Did you not get that memo?
No, because I'm terrible at the internet. That being said, let's talk about Capaldi and the Doctor.
Yeah.
Just opinion. What do you guys
I like him a lot.
Very good. Next question.
I think he's great. I think I think his first season he had there's some really good episodes, but I think he had some bad scripts to work off of. You know, I think this season, I honestly, I don't like to be spoiled. I don't like a lot of the stuff. So I didn't know they were doing two-parters this whole season. So I was like, by the time I get to the second one, I'm like, what are they doing, two-parters the whole time? They're like, yeah, they are. I'm like, oh. But I love that. I was really surprised by that.
And then when the giant space shark eats everybody.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. I don't think that was
Sorry,
too,
the return of the giant space shark.
Oh, yeah, sorry. Yeah.
Two parts.
I don't think that was too much of a spoiler.
And then it turns out that the space shark is the Ronnie,
Yeah.
I
Who
mean,
is actually
that one.
disguised as Omega.
which was amazing.
Oh.
Sorry, that was.
What?
As somebody, I was really interested to see, as somebody who obviously has been watching the show for so long, I was interested to see, one, the Doctor can't be younger than me. That's just wrong. I just don't like that. I'm 44. I don't like younger Doctors. They're always great, but it just always, there's part of me that's always like, no! So I was excited to see an older Doctor, and I was really curious to see how they were going to handle it. And I've liked how they've done it so far.
Yeah.
Kelly says some of the scripts aren't good, but whatever. He doesn't know what he's talking
I
about.
don't. I'm terrible.
I mean, I like every Doctor Who season. They're good. There are episodes that kind of work better for me and ones that don't. But I really liked it. And then, you know, it's hard. I mean, we have 12 Doctors, 13 Doctors now. 14 if you want to count. Well, actually, what?
15 if you could include Handy, right?
Yeah, I was going to say. If you really want to get nerdy, there have been a lot of them. So, you know, each Doctor struggles a little bit to kind of find what that Doctor is going to be all about, and I think they established what Capaldi was going to be all about really fast and really good, and he's just great.
Yeah.
He's just a really great actor. And I know a lot of people in my Twitter feed hate Clara and are all happy she's possibly leaving. But, you know, but I liked her. But it's a little weird because she dresses exactly like my wife. And I think this is why my wife doesn't come to conventions, because people will think she's cosplaying as Clara. She literally has been watching an episode. It's like, I have that bag. The red bag from the Rings of Aquitaine. Yeah, she's got that.
That's cool.
So
But not that shirt with all the eyeballs on it?
No, she has a sweater though. Anyways.
It's weird. I find myself having a lot more fashion conversations when I start talking about Doctor Who. It's like, I really like that thing she was wearing this one. Why am I having this conversation?
I did not have that conversation with Amy Pond being on.
No, well.
But I love Capaldi. I love sort of a more traditional Doctor Who relationship, and yet they still find it something new to do with it. I like her being his conscience. I think that's a really interesting idea. But it's annoying to me because the complaint that people always have about my Doctors is I make them too old because I do little lines around the eyes. It's just what you do as an artist to define the eyeballs. So everyone's like, oh, you make them look too old, so you got to erase all the lines. Now there's a Doctor who's old, and I can have all those lines, but I'm not trying.
And then you can ask them,
well, they'd still be like, you're making him too old, but
Who frowned in that face? Well, that would be Matt. He frowned in that face 2 minutes ago.
yes.
Yeah. Well, you know, I had this discussion now talking about where this whole Capaldi thing's going, and, you know, talking about Moffat, which I like. We were talking about, I like Moffat. You know, he's never been perfect and everything, but I think he has some really good stuff. He's a completist, though. You know, we're getting the regenerations we never saw. You know, he's a completist. He likes the bookend thing.
Yeah.
I wonder if he's going this whole Valyard thing.
Yeah.
Anybody familiar with the Valyard?
No, he's not. He's not doing the Valyard.
You don't think so? You don't think he's going there?
No. They'll reference it just to mess with people like you.
Yeah, that's true.
That's it.
I don't.
Yeah, Name of the Doctor, they dropped it. And
They dropped it,
entire-
that's it.
I'm very lucky. I get to watch Doctor Who with an audience of about 100 people in Greensboro. We actually have this mass viewing every single time. And they dropped the Valyard's name and Name of the Doctor, and everyone went, oh! And you heard, what was that? I don't know. There's a very discrepancy about newer fans and older fans. And I am a newer fan. Like, I am. I'm, you know, I went back and rewatched the classics several times because I got tired of not understanding what was going on. And, you know, I have no problems with newer fans not going back and watching the classics. It's great. You're going to get more enjoyment out of it because they, especially this season, they are referencing the classic stuff like you wouldn't believe, left and right.
Boom, right there. I mean, it's right in your face. I mean, no doubt about it.
But if you don't know what they're talking about, it fits in well with the script. I don't feel it's to the detriment of the script.
Yeah.
I think it's
Well, and that's when it works best. It just happens, and it doesn't matter if you know what you're talking about or not.
Plus Clockwork Scroll. But, you know, anywho.
Yeah.
So we're doing a lot of two-parters with this one. They're not all of them.
I like the classic cliffhangers being back.
And I was going to ask you if you like the cliffhangers, because that's one of the things that I think on average in Russell T Davies' run we had two-parters. Sometimes one would come at the end. You know, of course we had the one three-parter at the end of series.
Right.
Three. Had a three-parter. Sorry, I still say season.
Watching the clock turn was that was awesome.
But yeah, so that's working for you. The cliffhangers is working for you guys.
Why not try it?
I
think it's working for me. I mean, it kind of gets me to think about what next week is going to happen.
My creator-owned book, The October Girl, the one where the main character basically just dresses Romana too. Every single issue ends with a classic Doctor Who style cliffhanger because that's part of my DNA. I just think that's the greatest thing ever.
With my career-owned books, I've done the same exact thing. I have a cliffhanger.
Why not?
Yeah.
There are 10-page issues, so you have to kind of keep the narrative going. So you have this big, great cliffhanger, and it's always somebody going, or a monster coming out.
Bum, bum, bum.
Yeah, I mean, like you need to hear the sting.
The sting comes in, you're just kind of like, oh.
So and they were messing around with it. It's interesting to see the different kind of ways they're playing with it.
Yeah. I want to open it up to questions from the audience. If you guys have questions, just raise your hand. We'll call on you. You've got opportunity to talk to some big nerds about Doctor Who and comic books, which they've got experience doing both. Does anybody have any questions? Yeah.
Never learned what your favorite Doctor was.
Yeah, dude, who's your favorite Doctor?
So I got a really lame answer for that.
No one knows my favorite Doctor.
That one is whatever Doctor I am watching or reading at the time. I'm a big fan. Baker was the first one I saw on TV, I'm pretty sure, but I couldn't tell you what episode. Baker's the first comic book character, but I didn't really get into the fandom of Doctor Who until 1996 when the TV movie came out, so I'm a huge Paul McGann, 8th Doctor fan.
My answer is always whoever the Doctor is now, because that's true. I just, But I started with Baker, and Sylvester McCoy is a personal favorite, the 7th Doctor. There's something about him.
He's punk.
He kind of is.
Punk.
But him and Ace
Andrew
together,
yeah,
and that was, I sat next to the script editor for those seasons at a show, and it literally was just me going,
It's true, he did. And he was, Cartmel was just kind of like...
But yeah, so, any other questions?
What do you think is the worst episode of both the classic and the modern Doctor Who?
There's never been a bad episode of either.
What he means to say is time flight and evolution of the Daleks.
What's funny, the one they all make fun of is Web Planet. The first Doctor story, where it was like this really great idea that had no budget. And I watched that recently. I hadn't seen that until it came out on DVD. And I think it actually works fine, and everyone should just shut up.
I add my 2 cents on Web Planet. I would pay good money to watch that episode as a live performance.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what it is. If you haven't seen it, it is a very theatrical, big
It's people dressed up as like bees and stuff.
Yeah.
And moths.
And they're on flyers. You know, they're
Yeah.
flying, and you can just see them. And it's, you know, the problem with that episode is you had a theatrical director directing it,
Yeah.
and we have a TV screen this big. And so when your Menoptera are going, oh, no, go back this way. No, they're flying, and they're just kind of going, we talk like this. I understand.
My least favorite thing, my least favorite moment, and I should never say this publicly, is I will never forgive Russell T. Davies for the Doctor hesitating at all to save Will at the end of time. Like, that's the one thing I'll never forgive him for that. I've forgiven him for a lot of other things.
The rest of End of Time, for instance.
The rest of End of Time, but that, like, there's like little things like that as a fan, like kind of, but there's never been an episode of Doctor Who that I didn't enjoy.
Yeah.
Even Time Flight, which has that master makeup before he reveals that he's the master. Oh, I should probably have had her cover her ears again. It turns out the master is the space shark. It's Doctor Who. It's never had a budget. There are always things that like don't quite work because they didn't have the money to do them.
I will never complain about the budget.
Yeah.
You know, it's like story. I can, you know, so you can sometimes complain about, but budget, yeah, no. I mean, it's like, especially the early days. You know, Doctor Who when it first came out was essentially live theater.
Yeah.
You know, you watch an episode and you go, wait a second, there's only 3 cuts in every episode of Doctor Who for the first year.
Yeah.
Like and it's like, why would they even allow him to mess up his line like that? Oh, no editing? They're not legally allowed to, like...
All they could do is edit huge chunks together.
Yeah.
But, you know, the Moffat thing, everybody hating Moffat, Moffat's fine. But this is the first season that the last season was the first season I saw where I wasn't watching it as somebody doing the comic. Since I write, since I'm writing the comics occasionally, I'm always like taking notes. I'm watching it with an editorial eye to either, you know, oh, what are the themes he's playing with here? Is that something I should play with? Things like that. So last season and this season are the first ones I've been able to watch just as a complete fan nerd. And it's awesome. It's really great.
That's really cool.
Yeah. So if he gets something wrong, I don't care. I don't have to fix it.
Yeah, right. You don't have to worry about throwing in those silent little...
Nope.
Yeah. This is the first year I'm watching it where I'm not doing a podcast about it beforehand, so it's really nice to actually... I haven't watched a single Next Time trailer. I haven't gone online to find out anything about it. I don't know the title.
I love it.
Yeah, I don't even know
love
the title.
Yeah.
I mean, because so much stuff was getting spoiled over the years. You know.
When I did, so I went in with the last Matt Smith season, and I said wasn't doing the comic at that point. I had kind of retired from doing Doctor Who comics because I had other things going on. And I said I'm not going to read any of those stuff online. I'm going to go into this completely spoiler free. And I got like 4 or 5 episodes in, and I got a call from Denton saying, we need you to write a 50th anniversary comic book that's going to go in the box set. And I immediately went online and found every single spoiler I could find to try to figure out what I was going to do. But that was my attempt to be spoiler free.
Right.
It didn't work out. And now there's Twitter, so some idiot is always spoiling something.
I don't go on social media on Saturdays after 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Like at 2:30, the episode has gone through, and everyone's putting on Twitter and Facebook. So you have so many people who are you know.
I like the idea. I should do fake spoilers Saturday.
Yeah.
Yeah. I should just make completely insane stuff up.
And coming from you.
Yeah.
So that
I could have an inside source.
Yeah, you could. Who knows?
Yeah.
Anyone else have any other questions in the audience? Yes.
What's like your favorite like villains from the show, like Daleks and stuff?
I hate drawing the Daleks. So I can't.
Straight line, circle, straight line, circle,
Yeah.
straight line, circle. But they're great villains.
So hard. I love just both to draw and just as part of my childhood, the Master will always be, and particularly like the Anthony Ainley Master. I don't know, there's something about him that I always just. He was so nice and so messed up and so evil, and he's really cool. But I like John Timm as the Master is also cool, and Missy as the Master is great.
Yeah. She's fun.
Yeah.
We haven't drawn her yet, or I haven't.
I've been doing little illustrations for each episode, but I've been so busy I haven't posted all of them because I haven't gotten around to coloring them.
Yeah, the Weeping Angels are great. I mean, I think there's a little bit of diminishing return with them. Yeah. You get to that point, but I feel like there's more to the episode Listen from last year. I feel like there's more of a villain that I want to kind of see or explore from that. I mean, I feel like there's something.
Nah, it's better when you have no idea.
Yeah, sometimes it's good to just leave it like that.
I'm a big ambiguity guy. I like when things.
I need complete closure.
Yeah.
I need the whole epilogue. I need.
Oh man, if you like closure, then Moffat is not the writer for you.
He's not your best friend.
Well, Moffat's, I think, one of those things where people have a lot of complaints about Moffat, and I think you really have to wait and see until he's done, because by the time his time runs over, so much is so self-referential. And I'm not saying it's a bad thing, I'm just saying that Stephen Moffat has changed the way I watch Doctor Who.
He takes complete long game though.
Yeah.
He really does. It's not like, everything's wrapped up.
I feel like I have to analyze the episode.
He's writing a fairy tale.
Yeah.
When I did the 50th anniversary thing, when I write Doctor Who projects, I want them to feel as much like an episode as possible. So I actually put something specifically in the story that doesn't quite make sense, so that it feels more like a Moffat story.
Yeah, there you go.
Like I said, I really need the hobby. But that's what he does. He's telling fairy tales. It doesn't have to make sense.
Right.
It's about the experience. And that's great for some people. And then other people need closure.
I'm okay with that.
Yeah, and that's fine. And whoever comes in next will be something different. So, but I don't think we're going to get closure on a lot of stuff. And that's okay for me.
Anybody else? Yeah.
A quick one. So, one of the Doctor Who comics that I read that I really liked was kind of a mashup with Star Trek and Doctor Who. Do you see any other kind of crossovers?
I personally have a very famous and very not well received opinion about crossovers. I don't like them, which is really funny what I'm doing next year. I'm doing a crossover next year, not for Doctor Who. Doctor Who has its own sensibility, and when you put that sensibility up against Star Trek, to me, that doesn't quite work. But people loved it, which is great. I actually had told them that I didn't want to do it. I did not want to be the artist on that project because I didn't know how it was going to work. And then, J.K. did the first half.
The whole painted, yeah.
And he did a great job, and people loved it. It's fun. So it's hard. Like, I would love to see a Doctor Who 7 crossover because they kind of exist in the same universe according to.
Well, the Daleks were supposed to show up at the end of the first season of Blake.
Right, and they would.
Really?
Yeah.
I had not.
Well, it's
Terra Nation.
Terra Nation.
Yeah, but they were supposed to be the big bad guy.
There's also supposed to be a Dalek dancing show or something too. Thinking if that didn't happen.
Yeah,
He was supposed to do a live Dalek show back in the
Daleks on ice. How has this not happened yet?
Oh, God.
Awesome.
The surface is too slippery. And you can have a couple of Cybermen who are just they stomp out on the floor and skate come out.
Oh, that would be.
Oh, beautiful.
Is that well, though, right?
No, that's Jerry Davis and Kim Petras.
But to answer your question about crossover, Doctor Who and Bill and Ted.
Yay.
Same thing.
You could actually kind of do that.
Oh, great.
The Doctor could switch their phone booth for his phone booth, and
You throw it as Rufus as being Rufus basically they both left Gallifrey at the same time, and that's sort of where Rufus goes in, and it's
see,
or you could do where Rufus turns out to be the meddling monk. Since you think
that
about
actually
it,
would work.
Yeah. It starts with a ripple.
Now I have this in my head.
I would like to see Doctor Who and Miss Fisher.
Oh yeah.
If you guys are familiar with Miss, if you have Netflix and you haven't seen Miss Fisher's Murder Mysteries, do yourself the favor.
I pitched a Doctor Who H.P. Lovecraft thing, which they never let me do.
Yeah.
So that was the thing, is that Cthulhu would turn out to be ancient Gallifreyan monsters.
Yeah. Many of them. Yeah.
Who live in Gallifreyan dreams. And he meets H.P. Lovecraft, who has channeled into them. I thought it was a great story.
Yeah.
didn't let me do it.
I'm actually surprised by that, because if you got H.P. Lovecraft and Cthulhu on there, it's almost guaranteed to fail. So.
And I wanted it to, well, because they had the rights to the H.P. Lovecraft stuff.
Yeah.
At IDW, and I wanted to do it as a Seventh Doctor story.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But they wouldn't let me use Seventh Doctor.
Yeah. Now it's going okay. We can try and Henrik with that, because we're okay. That works with that, and I can see where you're going. See, Ghostlight itself was a fairly Lovecraftian story. All right.
You would know what I was.
I am going to go sit in a corner and think about this for an hour. Thank you guys very much for joining us. Please join me in thanking our guests. Thank you for being here.